The alien fighter challenged a human to a duel, and the result left her speechless HumanMigh. Thousands of lights sparkled across its surface, and ships of every shape and size came and went, carrying cargo, passengers, and diplomats from countless star systems. The neutral space station of Orion 9 was one of the busiest in the galaxy, known for its marketplaces, training arenas, and demonstration halls where species tested their skills in combat, diplomacy, and technology. Commander Alara Voss walked through the main concourse of Orion 9 with a calm, confident stride. She was a Virin, the elite fighting species whose speed, strength, and agility were legendary. Standing nearly 2 meters tall, with sharp blue eyes and a posture that radiated authority, she drew glances from nearly everyone in the concourse. Merchants paused mid-sentence to watch her, security officers straightened instinctively, and young fighters whispered excitedly to one another. Alara had come to Orion 9 to demonstrate her combat skills, as the Virin often did. They valued honor, precision, and strength, and she carried the reputation of a champion. Wherever she went, she commanded attention, not just for her skill, but for the aura of focus and calm that surrounded her. Today, a crowd had gathered for her demonstration in one of the station's largest arenas. Spectators of dozens of species lined the observation deck, their eyes wide with anticipation. A transparent dome separated them from the arena floor, which was a smooth, circular platform floating in zero gravity, designed specifically for combat exhibitions. Alara stepped onto the platform. Her movements were precise, almost artistic, each gesture perfectly controlled. She raised her hands, and with a thought, the arena lights shifted, highlighting her form against the dark backdrop of the station. Commander Alara Voss of the Virin High Guard, the announcer's voice boomed across the arena, will now demonstrate the art of combat that has defeated thousands across the galaxy. The crowd erupted in applause. But among them, a lone human stood quietly, watching with a curious expression rather than excitement. HumanMigh was a pilot, not a warrior in the traditional sense. Humans were considered weak by many advanced species, relying on ingenuity rather than brute strength. But Alex had a reputation of his own, quick thinking, fast reflexes, and a calm mind under pressure. He observed everything, the way Alara moved, how the lights reflected off her armor, the subtle shift of her muscles as she prepared to demonstrate. Alara noticed him almost immediately. Something about his calm demeanor caught her attention. Most spectators gasped, whispered, or leaned forward in anticipation. He simply stood there, eyes steady, studying her movements. A slight smirk appeared on Alara's face. Curious, she thought. A human daring to watch me without fear? How unusual. The demonstration began. With fluid movements, Alara shifted through a series of attacks and defenses, each motion precise and powerful. Her strikes sliced the air with a sharp sound, and small drones in the arena displayed holographic effects to show the impact points. She moved faster than the eye could track, her body twisting and turning in ways that seemed almost impossible. The audience watched in awe. Even seasoned fighters from other species could not help but be impressed. The human Alex did not flinch. He tilted his head slightly, studying, analyzing. When the demonstration ended, Alara stood in the center of the arena, her chest rising and falling with controlled breathing. She had made it look effortless. Applause and cheers filled the dome. The announcer praised her skill, and the crowd seemed satisfied. But then a small ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd. Alex stepped forward, moving closer to the edge of the arena. "Commander Voss," he said, his voice calm but confident, "I have a question." Alara's sharp eyes narrowed slightly. "Speak," she said. "I am not accustomed to humans challenging me without reason." Alex smiled faintly. "I wonder if your skill is as perfect as they say. Would you accept a duel?" The arena fell silent, a human daring to challenge a Virin. Many gasped, and some security drones adjusted nervously, unsure how to react. Whispers spread across the observation deck. Some spectators thought Alex foolish, others intrigued. Alara's initial reaction was amusement. She laughed, a low, melodic sound that carried across the platform. "A duel? You, a human, wish to face me in combat?" She paused, her eyes scanning him up and down. "Do you know what you are asking? One strike from me and most beings are incapacitated." "I understand," Alex replied calmly, "but I do not rely on strength alone. I believe strategy and timing can be just as powerful." Her smirk faded slightly. The human's confidence was unusual. Most would have knelt, begged for mercy, or turned away. Yet he stood firm, radiating a quiet courage that caught her off guard. A murmur ran through the crowd again. Humans were known for adaptability, but no human had ever faced a Virin in direct combat. Many believed it impossible. Yet here was one, calmly inviting a duel against the galaxy's elite fighter. Alara considered her options. Refusing a challenge would be seen as weak or dishonorable. Accepting meant she could crush the human effortlessly, or perhaps discover something she had never expected. Finally, she spoke, her voice clear and commanding. "Very well, human, if you wish to test yourself, I will accept your challenge. But know this, I will fight to win. This duel is not for display. It is for honor." Alex nodded, unshaken. "I would not have it any other way." The announcer's voice cut through the tension. "Ladies and gentlemen, it appears we have an unprecedented event. A human has challenged the Virin champion to a duel. Prepare yourselves for a contest unlike any other." Excitement rippled through the audience. Species that had long underestimated humans suddenly leaned forward, curiosity replacing disbelief. Cameras and holorecorders activated to capture every moment. Alara moved to the center of the arena. She adjusted her stance, her muscles coiled and ready. She had faced countless opponents before, but there was something different about this one. The human's calmness was disarming. His stance was not traditional, not trained in the ways of the Virin or any other species, yet there was an unmistakable focus in his eyes. Alex mirrored her movements, not in strength, but in observation. Every gesture of Alara's body, every subtle shift of weight, he noticed. He did not try to imitate. He would rely on creativity, adaptability, and timing. That was the human way. The duel was about to begin. Spectators held their breath. The arena's lights dimmed slightly, focusing on the two figures poised for combat. Small drones hovered around the edges, recording, analyzing, and ready to respond if things escalated. Alara flexed her fingers, feeling the familiar thrill of anticipation. She had defeated countless challengers, each more skilled than the last. Yet there was something about this human that made her pause, an unseen strength, a potential that defied expectation. Alex took a deep breath, centering himself. He did not fear her strength, he respected it. Humans were not born the strongest, the fastest, or the largest, but they were resilient. They were intelligent, unpredictable, and capable of turning the impossible into reality. The first move would set the tone of the duel. The first glance, the first step, the first feint each held meaning. Alara's blue eyes locked onto Alex's gaze. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice calm but carrying authority. "I am," Alex replied, steady and unwavering. A hush fell over the arena. The zero-gravity platform glimmered under the lights. Two figures, one human, one Virin, stood facing each other. One represented raw power and centuries of honed skill, the other ingenuity and adaptability. The tension was electric. Spectators leaned forward. Some doubted, some hoped, but all were captivated. No one had ever witnessed such a challenge. And in that moment, the galaxy itself seemed to pause, watching what would happen when the ingenuity of a human met the perfection of a Virin champion. Alara raised her hand, a small signal. The duel was officially underway. And as the first move was made, a ripple of disbelief passed through the audience. This would not be a simple demonstration. This would be a test of strategy, courage, and the human spirit. For the first time in her long career, Commander Alara Voss felt uncertain and intrigued. And Alex, the human, felt a quiet thrill. This was his moment, not to prove strength, but to prove what humans could do when challenged by the impossible. The arena lights flared brighter, reflecting off the smooth metal walls. The zero-gravity floor was ready to test their balance, their reflexes, their minds. The duel had begun. After the initial shock of the challenge, the crowd slowly dispersed to give the arena a moment of quiet before the duel began. HFY stepped back, taking a deep breath, while Commander Alara Voss remained in the center of the zero-gravity platform. Both of them understood that the duel would not simply be a display. It would be a battle of wits, strategy, and endurance. Alara's mind worked quickly. She had trained for decades, facing opponents who relied on speed, strength, and advanced combat techniques. Every movement, every reaction, every strike had been honed to perfection. But humans were different. Alex did not carry the same muscle power or combat training that the Virin or other elite fighters did. He had something else, something she had not fully measured. Alara decided to take the duel seriously. She would not underestimate him. She began to analyze him. The human's posture was unusual. His feet were planted firmly, even in zero gravity, and his arms relaxed at his sides. He did not seem nervous or tense. Instead, his eyes were sharp, constantly scanning her movements, anticipating without haste. Alex, on the other hand, did not study her in the same way most challengers would. He did not try to mimic her motions or predict her strikes with brute intuition. Instead, he observed the arena itself, the smooth metal floor, the floating objects along the edges, the subtle lighting shifts above, even the position of the drones hovering at the perimeter. Every detail was a potential tool, every angle a possible advantage. "Commander Voss," Alex said quietly, "may I ask one question before we begin?" Alara arched a sharp eyebrow. "Speak, human, but choose your words carefully. Time is limited." "I want to know which of your movements are standard and which are improvised," Alex asked. Alara tilted her head, a smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. "You are bold. Most would never ask. My standard techniques are based on centuries of V-Rin combat training. Improvisation is rare, but I use it when necessary." "Why do you ask?" Alex's expression did not change. "Because I will need to use unpredictability against predictability. If I can understand the patterns, even partially, I can create openings where none exist." Alara's eyes widened slightly. He spoke with clarity and confidence. Humans were clever, yes, but his approach was methodical and precise. Most challengers relied on either brute strength or raw speed. This human thought like a strategist. "Interesting," she said softly. "You may survive longer than I expected." The arena remained quiet, the crowd now watching through cameras from multiple observation rooms. Both competitors retreated to opposite corners to prepare. Alex began stretching his muscles, moving slowly but deliberately, making sure he could respond to sudden changes in direction. He imagined the duel in his mind, a series of movements, reactions, and counteractions. Unlike the V-Rin, humans relied on creativity and adaptability rather than raw power. He would need every advantage he could find. Alara moved with fluid grace, performing a series of motions that demonstrated her control over every muscle. She visualized Alex's potential reactions, predicting the areas where he might move, the angles he might use, and the openings he might create. But even as she considered his options, she knew she could not predict everything. Humans were unpredictable. That was part of their strength. The arena itself would play a crucial role in the duel. It was a zero-gravity chamber about 50 meters across, with smooth metallic walls and a series of small platforms floating just above the floor. Lights illuminated the arena from multiple angles, creating shadows that could hide movements or reveal them depending on the position. Drones hovered at the edges, monitoring the duel for safety but also recording every detail. Alex noticed every detail. He memorized the location of the platforms and walls, considering how he could use them to gain momentum, avoid attacks, or create misdirection. Unlike Alara, he would not rely on strength or speed alone. He would rely on thinking ahead, anticipating her reactions, turning her own abilities into challenges she might not expect. For Alara, preparation meant more than physical readiness. She considered the mental aspect of the duel as much as the physical. A duel was not just about hitting an opponent, it was about creating pressure, forcing mistakes, and controlling the pace. Humans could be clever, yes, but they also had limits. She intended to test those limits quickly. Hours passed as both of them prepared. Alex performed mental exercises, imagining every scenario the V-Rin might employ. He considered angles of attack, timing, and psychological pressure. Alara meditated, focusing her mind, controlling her breathing, and tuning her body to respond instantly to any threat. Finally, the moment came to return to the center of the arena. The zero-gravity chamber seemed almost alive, filled with potential energy and anticipation. Spectators watched from the observation decks, their excitement growing. No one had ever seen a human face a V-Rin champion directly. Most species assumed it impossible. Yet here they were, preparing for a duel that could change perception across the galaxy. Alara approached the center first. Her movements were deliberate, precise, and fluid. She tested her balance in the zero-gravity chamber, ensuring every shift of weight and every extension of her limbs would be effective. Her eyes scanned the arena for potential hazards, for elements she could use to her advantage. Alex entered more casually, though every step was deliberate. He did not rush. Instead, he moved with patience, observing her and the arena. He knew that rushing would only play into her strengths. The Virin thrived on speed and power. He would have to outthink her, outmaneuver her, and create opportunities where raw strength could not reach. A soft hum filled the arena as the starting lights flickered. Both competitors stopped and faced each other. The zero-gravity environment would amplify every movement, making control essential. One misstep could leave either of them off balance, vulnerable, or in a position from which recovery would be difficult. Elara spoke first, her voice echoing slightly in the chamber. "Human, are you ready to begin?" Alex nodded. "I am ready." The announcer's voice filled the observation decks. "Ladies and gentlemen, the duel is about to begin. Prepare yourselves for an unprecedented battle of skill and strategy." Elara took a slow step forward, testing the distance between them. Alex mirrored her move, maintaining a safe gap while keeping his balance. Neither made sudden moves yet. This was the first test to feel out the other's reactions. Elara's eyes narrowed. She had faced many opponents and her instincts were sharp, but this human, he did not react as expected. He anticipated subtle shifts in her posture, adjusting without hesitation. She could feel the tension building in the chamber. Every movement mattered, every micro-adjustment could create an opening or a mistake. Alex focused on timing. Humans were slower in raw speed, yes, but their minds could calculate patterns and adapt in real time. He waited for Elara to make the first true strike, planning to use her momentum to his advantage. The zero-gravity chamber would allow him to move in ways impossible on solid ground, bouncing off walls, twisting, and turning unpredictably. Elara made a small, almost imperceptible feint. It was a standard Virin move meant to test the reaction of her opponent. Most challengers would flinch or react instinctively. Alex did not. Instead, he shifted his position slightly, keeping his balance, his eyes tracking her every muscle movement. For the first time, Elara felt a flicker of uncertainty. This human was not following the rules she had known for decades. He was thinking differently, moving differently, and yet maintaining control. The crowd was silent, watching this subtle dance. No blows had been exchanged yet, but the tension was palpable. Every spectator sensed the unusual nature of this duel. It was not just strength against strength. It was mind against mind, strategy against instinct, creativity against tradition. Elara took a slow breath. She realized that underestimating humans could be a mistake. They were weaker physically, yes, but unpredictable in ways that could turn her own skill against her. For the first time, she felt curiosity mixed with caution. Alex, sensing the shift, smiled slightly. He had not yet made a move, but he could feel the effect his strategy was having. The duel would not be won in a single strike. It would be won by thinking ahead, creating openings, and remaining adaptable. Elara raised her hand slightly, signaling the start of the real engagement. This was no longer a test. It was a duel in earnest. And in that instant, both realized something important. The duel would not only test their skill, but also reveal what made humans truly formidable. Strength could be measured, speed could be calculated, but ingenuity and adaptability were forces even a champion like Elara had not fully reckoned with. As the starting lights brightened, Alex prepared for his first move. Every calculation he had made, every scenario he had imagined would now be put to the test. And so, the duel entered its next phase, preparation meeting strategy, curiosity meeting strength, and the human spirit confronting the expectations of an entire galaxy. The arena was silent except for the soft hum of the zero-gravity chamber. HumanMigh and Commander Elara Voss faced each other in the center, both ready, both aware of the magnitude of what was about to happen. The spectators waited with bated breath, their eyes wide, cameras recording every detail. Elara was the first to make a move. With a flick of her wrist, she launched herself forward, her body twisting gracefully in the air. In zero gravity, her speed was almost impossible to track. She aimed for a quick strike, testing Alex's reflexes. Alex reacted calmly. Instead of meeting her speed with force, he shifted slightly to the side, letting her momentum carry her past him. Then, using a small platform in the arena, he pushed off and changed direction midair. It was a simple move, but in zero gravity it made him unpredictable. Elara blinked in surprise. Most opponents would have been caught off guard by her speed and precision. But Alex's movement was unexpected, a combination of instinct, calculation, and creativity. He was not strong, but he was clever. The crowd gasped. A human was dodging a Virin champion's attack. Whispers spread through the observation decks. Could a human really compete against one of the galaxy's finest fighters? Alara gritted her teeth, a rare emotion crossing her face: intrigue. She had faced countless warriors who relied on reflex and brute force, but this human used his mind. He was thinking ahead, calculating possibilities, turning the arena itself into a tool. Alex did not attack immediately. Instead, he observed, waiting for the next movement. He noticed the slight angle of Alara's shoulders, the position of her arms, and the tension in her legs. He realized that her next move would likely follow a pattern, one she had used countless times in demonstrations and duels. He took a deep breath and acted. Using a small spin off the platform, he launched himself toward her, not to strike, but to close the gap unpredictably. Alara adjusted quickly, raising her arm to block what could have been a precise hit. But Alex's intention was different. His hand barely touched her armor, just enough to shift her weight slightly. Alara staggered midair, a fleeting moment of surprise crossing her expression. The audience noticed it, and a murmur ran through the crowd. Even the Virin spectators leaned forward, eyes wide. This human was doing more than surviving. He was challenging her in a way they had never seen before. Alara adjusted her stance immediately, her muscles coiling like springs. She had faced many opponents, but Alex's unpredictability was unique. He was not faster, not stronger, but he was creative, adaptable, and willing to use unconventional tactics. "Clever," she muttered under her breath. Alex floated back slightly, keeping his distance, observing her reactions. He knew that direct attacks were risky. The Virin could end a duel in seconds with a precise strike. He needed to think 2 steps ahead, anticipate her responses, and find openings. Alara lunged again, faster this time. Her strikes came in a series of elegant, controlled motions, designed to overwhelm most opponents. But Alex moved with timing, using small pushes off the walls and platforms to adjust his position. Every dodge, every shift was calculated to conserve energy and create opportunity. The crowd watched in amazement. Spectators from dozens of species were leaning forward, whispering to each other. No human had ever displayed this level of ingenuity in combat against a Virin. Many began to wonder if Alex's strategy could actually succeed. Alara, meanwhile, began to notice a pattern. Alex did not attack in traditional ways. He relied on timing, misdirection, and the arena itself. She had trained for decades, yet here was a human who was adapting mid-duel, changing tactics in ways she had never anticipated. Her strikes became more precise, but also more cautious. She needed to test him further to understand the extent of his skill. She feinted left, then right, then twisted in midair, trying to force him into a mistake. But Alex remained calm, adjusting instantly. At one point, Alara attempted a spinning strike aimed at his torso. Alex saw the opening he had been waiting for. He pushed off a platform, launched himself upward, and twisted around her strike, letting her momentum carry her past him. Then, with a quick spin, he nudged her slightly with his shoulder, not to harm her, but to test her balance. Alara staggered again, more noticeably this time. She realized something important. This human was not just clever, he was fearless. Most opponents would hesitate when facing her speed and strength. Alex did not. He maintained calm, focus, and creativity under pressure. "Interesting," she muttered aloud. The duel continued, both combatants moving through the arena with fluid grace. Alara's strikes were fast and controlled, while Alex's dodges and repositioning were unpredictable. He used the walls, platforms, and even his own spins to keep her guessing. Every movement was deliberate, calculated, and adaptive. At one point, Alex used a technique that surprised even him. He grabbed a small floating object, a training drone, and used it as a makeshift shield, deflecting one of Alara's strikes. The Virin was momentarily caught off guard. She had not expected a human to use environmental objects in combat. The audience gasped. Some species whispered among themselves, clearly impressed. Even Alara's own squad of Virin warriors watching from the observation deck leaned forward, eyes wide. Humans were capable of cleverness, yes, but this was beyond what anyone had expected. Alara adjusted her approach. She began using more deceptive patterns, combining speed with feints, trying to trick Alex into a reaction she could predict. But Alex remained calm, his mind calculating probabilities, watching her eyes, her posture, the movement of her limbs. He adapted continuously, learning from each motion, anticipating her next strike. The duel was no longer just physical, it had become a mental contest. Alex had realized that he could not match her strength, but he could match her creativity, using clever movements to stay in control. Alara realized that she could not rely solely on instinct and strength. She needed to read him, understand his mind, and anticipate his unpredictability. Minutes passed, though it felt longer. Neither combatant had made a critical mistake. The audience was captivated, their excitement growing. Every dodge, every feint, every spin kept them on the edge of their seats. Then something remarkable happened. Alex saw a small opening, a slight hesitation in Alara's movement as she prepared for a spinning strike. It was subtle but enough for him to act. He adjusted his trajectory midair, moved behind her quickly, and tapped her lightly on the shoulder. Alara's eyes widened. She had not expected him to reach her so quickly or so precisely. She adjusted instantly, but for a brief moment, the human had outmaneuvered her using speed, timing, and creativity combined. The audience erupted in whispers and gasps. A human had not only survived multiple attacks, but had successfully created an opening against the Virin champion. Alara floated for a moment, speechless, not from defeat, but from astonishment. She had underestimated the human mind. Alex, feeling a surge of confidence, did not attack recklessly. He knew that every move carried risk. Instead, he floated back slightly, giving her space, observing her reaction. He wanted to study her pattern, learn her strategy, and prepare for the next phase of the duel. Alara, meanwhile, was recalibrating. She realized that brute strength and speed were not enough. She needed to match human ingenuity with her own creativity. Her movements became more fluid, more unpredictable, combining traditional Virin techniques with improvisation. The duel intensified. Alara launched a rapid series of strikes. Alex dodged with a combination of spins, pushes, and pulls using the arena's surfaces. He used floating objects as shields, barriers, and distractions, turning every part of the environment into a tool. The crowd was completely absorbed, cheering silently in awe at the display of intelligence and adaptability. Both combatants were now testing limits, not just of speed or strength, but of creativity and mental agility. Each move became a conversation, a question and answer, a test of anticipation. Who could predict the other? Who would adapt first? Alara realized something crucial. Humans were clever because they thought beyond instinct. They could improvise, learn, and turn obstacles into opportunities. She had faced many skilled opponents, but Alex was different. He was not predictable. He was not bound by tradition. He was, in a way, free. Alex, feeling the rhythm of the duel, knew that he could not overpower her. But he could outthink her. He could create moments of imbalance, small openings that he could exploit. And most importantly, he had learned something. The Virin, no matter how skilled, expected patterns. By breaking those patterns, he gained power. The duel continued, both moving faster and more fluidly with every passing moment. Alara's strikes were precise, Alex's defenses clever. Each tested the other, each learning, each adapting. The crowd was silent now, completely captivated, unable to look away. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. The duel was far from over, but one thing had become clear. This was not just a contest of strength. It was a test of intelligence, creativity, courage, and the human spirit. And for the first time, Commander Alara Voss felt something she had never expected. She was impressed and speechless at the human before her. The zero-gravity arena was alive with tension. Commander Alara Voss and Alex Mig floated in the center, circling each other cautiously. Both had tested the other's abilities and both had learned a great deal. The crowd held its breath, sensing that the duel had entered a critical stage. Alara's strikes had become faster, her movements more unpredictable. She twirled, twisted, and launched attacks from angles no ordinary opponent could anticipate. But Alex had learned her patterns too. His own movements were fluid, precise, and creative. He dodged, pivoted, and used the floating platforms to gain speed, positioning himself strategically in every moment. For a long time, neither had landed a decisive hit. The duel had become a battle of minds as much as bodies, a test of strategy and ingenuity rather than raw strength. And yet something remarkable was happening. Alex, the human, was not only surviving, he was beginning to control the flow of the duel. Ilara noticed it first. The human's timing had improved. He seemed to anticipate her attacks, adjusting mid-movement, using her own momentum against her. Each feint she threw was met with a clever counter, each spin was sidestepped with perfect precision. He was learning quickly, adapting faster than any opponent she had ever faced. Her blue eyes narrowed, sharp with focus. "Clever," she muttered to herself. "You are clever, human, but can you endure what comes next?" Alex did not respond. Instead, he floated back slightly, observing her as she prepared a new attack. This one would be faster, stronger, and more complex than the previous. It combined multiple V-Rin techniques into a seamless flow of movement. Most opponents would fail instantly. Most would be overwhelmed, but Alex was ready. He had noticed a small detail in her movement, a fraction of a second delay at the moment she initiated a spin. That was all he needed. When Ilara launched her attack, Alex used the delay to his advantage. He twisted, spun, and pushed off a nearby platform, letting her own strike carry her past him. Then, in a move that was both bold and precise, he tapped her lightly on the shoulder, not hard enough to hurt, but enough to shift her balance just slightly. Ilara's eyes widened. She had not expected that. She adjusted instantly, recovering her stance, but the human had done something few could. He had turned her own strength into a momentary weakness. The crowd erupted in whispers. Spectators from dozens of species leaned forward, their eyes wide. No human had ever displayed this level of ingenuity against a V-Rin champion. Even some of the alien warriors watching from the observation decks were stunned. Alex floated back, keeping his movements calm and measured. He did not rush. He knew that overconfidence could be dangerous. The V-Rin were formidable fighters, and Ilara's skill was unmatched. But he also understood one thing clearly. Humans were unpredictable, and unpredictability could be a weapon. Ilara, sensing the shift in momentum, adjusted her tactics. She began to incorporate feints within feints, combining speed with sudden pauses and direction changes. She tried to force him into making a mistake, hoping to exploit any small hesitation. Alex, however, remained composed. He watched, analyzed, and moved with purpose. Every dodge, every spin, every push against the floating platforms was calculated. He was not relying on instinct alone. He was using strategy, timing, and observation. The duel escalated. Ilara launched a rapid series of strikes, each faster than the last. Alex twisted and spun, moving in ways that seemed almost impossible. He used the walls and platforms to gain momentum, changing directions unpredictably. He even used floating objects, small training drones, to deflect attacks and create barriers between himself and Ilara. The audience was captivated. They could not look away. Every movement was precise, calculated, and beautiful in its complexity. Some whispered to one another in disbelief. The human was not only surviving, he was thriving. Ilara began to feel a growing sense of admiration. She had expected humans to be clever, yes, but she had not anticipated this level of adaptability. He was not relying on strength or speed. He was thinking, analyzing, and improvising in real time. "You are remarkable," she admitted quietly to herself. Alex, feeling the rhythm of the duel, realized that he had the advantage. He could not overpower her physically, but he could outthink her. He could create openings, force her into reactions, and guide the flow of combat. With careful timing, he executed a complex maneuver. Using a spin off the wall, he approached from an unexpected angle. Ilara reacted instinctively, blocking what she thought was an attack. But it was a feint. Alex's real move was a light tap against her torso, again not to harm but to demonstrate control. Ilara's eyes widened. She had been outmaneuvered not through strength but through ingenuity and timing. She adjusted instantly, floating back, her mind racing. She realized something important. Humans did not fight like other species. They relied on creativity, unpredictability, and adaptability, traits that could challenge even the most skilled warrior. Alex, sensing her momentary hesitation, continued to move with care. He did not attack recklessly. He understood that patience and observation were as powerful as any strike. He maintained a balance between defense and opportunity, waiting for the perfect moment. Ilara's strikes became more calculated, more cautious. She could not predict him as easily as she had hoped. Each movement he made was unexpected yet precise. She began to respect his skill, realizing that he was not weak, he was clever. The duel reached its peak. Both competitors were moving faster, thinking faster, reacting faster. The zero-gravity chamber amplified every motion, every twist, every spin. The spectators were on the edge of their seats. Cameras captured every moment, broadcasting across the station. Then came the decisive moment. Alex noticed a subtle pattern in Alara's attacks. Every few strikes, she introduced a tiny pause, a brief moment where her weight shifted slightly as she prepared for the next sequence. Most opponents would not notice, but Alex had been watching. He used this knowledge. With precise timing, he positioned himself to use her own momentum against her. As she launched a spinning attack, he twisted midair, allowing her strike to pass harmlessly while simultaneously nudging her slightly off balance. Alara felt it instantly. She had been outmaneuvered in a way she had never experienced before. Not by strength, not by speed, but by a human mind anticipating her moves, adapting in real time, and turning her power into an advantage for himself. The crowd gasped. Even the most skeptical spectators could not believe what they were seeing. A human had just demonstrated the ability to control the flow of combat against a V-Rin champion. Alara floated for a moment, catching herself. She looked at Alex, and for the first time she was speechless, not from defeat but from astonishment. This human had shown her something extraordinary. Creativity, courage, and intelligence could rival raw strength and speed. Alex smiled faintly, sensing the shift in momentum. He did not celebrate. He knew the duel was far from over. But he had proven something crucial. Humans were not weak. They could not match aliens in brute strength, but they could outthink, outmaneuver, and survive against even the most skilled fighters. Alara's expression softened slightly. She had expected a simple demonstration, a quick victory, and the respect of the crowd. Instead, she found herself challenged in a way she had never anticipated. The human before her was clever, fearless, and adaptable. He had turned what should have been an impossible duel into a contest of equals. The audience erupted in applause, some standing, some cheering silently, overwhelmed by what they had witnessed. Alex had not only survived, he had shifted the balance of the duel, forcing the champion to rethink her approach entirely. Alara nodded slightly, acknowledging his skill. "You are unlike any opponent I have faced," she admitted, her voice calm but filled with respect. "Your mind is sharp and your timing is remarkable." Alex nodded in return. "Thank you, Commander. I respect your skill as well. It is an honor to learn from you." The duel was far from over, but one thing was certain. The human had changed the dynamic. No longer was he simply defending or dodging. He was controlling the pace, forcing reactions, and demonstrating the true power of ingenuity. Alara realized that brute strength alone would not win. She needed to match his creativity, think ahead, and adapt continuously. The duel had become a test of minds as much as bodies, a challenge to ingenuity, strategy, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. And for the first time, Commander Alara Voss felt a deep respect for a human competitor. She was not merely fighting a weak opponent. She was facing a mind capable of turning the impossible into an opportunity. The duel continued, each move more precise, each counter more calculated. The zero-gravity chamber became a stage where human creativity and V-Rin's skill collided in a display of intelligence, courage, and adaptability. And the audience, watching in awe, realized that this duel was no longer just a contest. It was a demonstration of what humans could achieve when faced with the impossible. The arena hummed with tension as HumanMigh and Commander Alara Voss faced each other, breathing steadily but with minds racing. The duel had reached its peak in the previous phase, and now both competitors understood something deeper than speed or strength. This was a contest of intelligence, creativity, and courage. And at this stage, it was clear to everyone watching that the human had changed the game entirely. Alara floated in the zero-gravity chamber, muscles coiled like springs. Her mind worked faster than ever, calculating angles, movements, and reactions. Yet despite all her training and experience, she felt a rare emotion, uncertainty. The human had survived every attack, adapted to every feint, and even created openings where none existed. No opponent had ever challenged her like this. Alex observed her carefully. He had studied her every strike, every adjustment, and every pattern. He had learned how to predict when to evade and when to create opportunity. He did not rush. He had learned the power of patience. His mind was calm yet alert. He knew the final moments of this duel would be about timing and ingenuity. The spectators leaned forward, silent with anticipation. Cameras from across the station recorded every detail, broadcasting the duel to countless species. No one had ever expected a human to survive, let alone compete so effectively against a Virin champion. Now, all doubts about human potential began to crumble. Ilara launched a series of rapid strikes. This time they were faster, more unpredictable, and combined multiple feints. She spun in midair, striking from angles that would have incapacitated most beings instantly. Alex anticipated her moves, but this attack was more complex than anything he had faced so far. For a moment, he felt the full weight of the challenge. He could not match her speed or power, and any misstep could be disastrous. But he remembered what had brought him this far: human ingenuity. He adjusted his approach, using the walls, platforms, and even floating drones as tools to redirect momentum. As Ilara's strike approached, Alex calculated the precise moment to act. He moved in a diagonal spin, letting her strike pass harmlessly above him while simultaneously pushing off a platform. The motion carried him behind her. With perfect timing, he tapped her shoulder lightly, not to harm, but to demonstrate control and create imbalance. Ilara froze for a brief second. The human had done it again, using strategy and timing rather than force. She adjusted quickly, but for that fleeting moment she had been outmaneuvered. The audience gasped, many standing in disbelief. A human had once again found a way to challenge the Virin champion. Alex did not pause. He kept moving, floating with calm precision. Each motion was deliberate, designed to maintain balance, anticipate the next strike, and create another opportunity. He did not need to overpower her. He needed only to outthink her. Ilara realized that brute strength alone would not win. She had relied on instincts, training, and centuries of combat knowledge. But Alex relied on adaptability, creativity, and timing, traits that were difficult to measure and impossible to predict fully. "You are remarkable," Ilara admitted quietly, her voice carrying just enough for him to hear. "I have never faced an opponent like you." "Thank you," Alex replied, maintaining his calm. "I have great respect for your skill as well. This duel is an honor." The arena lights dimmed slightly, focusing on the two figures as they moved faster and more fluidly. Both understood that the final moments were approaching. One critical move would determine the outcome, not through raw power, but through precision, timing, and intelligence. Ilara launched a final series of strikes, combining spins, feints, and bursts of speed. She moved faster than Alex could track with raw sight alone, relying on instinct and honed reflexes. But Alex had anticipated this. He used every tool available, the walls, floating platforms, and drones, to change his trajectory, redirecting momentum and staying one step ahead. The audience watched in awe. This was no longer a simple duel. It was a battle of minds, a contest of ingenuity against perfection. Every move, every dodge, every adjustment showcased not just skill, but intelligence and courage. Then came the decisive moment. Alex noticed the subtle pause in Ilara's movements, a fraction of a second where she shifted weight to prepare for her next attack. It was barely noticeable, but he had been waiting for it. Timing everything perfectly, he spun off a platform, approaching from an unexpected angle. Ilara reacted instinctively, attempting to block the maneuver, but Alex anticipated her response. Using momentum, he nudged her slightly to the side. It was a controlled motion, precise and non-harmful, yet enough to create a momentary opening in her stance. Ilara paused, floating for a brief moment, astonished. She realized that the human had used strategy, timing, and environmental awareness to create an opening where none seemed possible. For the first time in her career, she found herself speechless. The audience erupted in quiet amazement. Humans had been underestimated across the galaxy, often seen as weak or fragile. But here, one human had not only survived a duel with a Virin champion, he had demonstrated control, adaptability, and ingenuity that rivaled centuries of experience. Alex floated back, giving Ilara space. He did not attack further. He knew that the point had been made. The duel was not about defeating her with force. It was about showing that intelligence, creativity, and adaptability could match raw strength. Ilara slowly lowered her arms, her breathing steadying. She looked at Alex with a mixture of admiration and astonishment. "You have proven something incredible," she said. "Not just to me, but to everyone watching. You are extraordinary." Alex nodded, a faint smile crossing his face. "I only did what I had to. Humans are not the strongest, but we can adapt, think creatively, and use our minds in ways others might not expect. A moment of silence passed in the arena. Then the crowd erupted into cheers, applause, and shouts of amazement. Spectators from dozens of species were standing, witnessing a human challenge the impossible and succeed through ingenuity and courage. Alara floated toward him, extending her hand. I acknowledge your skill, HFY. You have earned my respect and the respect of the Virin. I offer you friendship, cooperation, and an opportunity to learn from each other. Alex grasped her hand firmly, a gesture of mutual respect. It would be an honor, Commander. Humanity values knowledge, collaboration, and the chance to grow alongside others. The arena, once tense with anticipation, now vibrated with energy and excitement. Spectators whispered among themselves. The duel had changed something fundamental, not just their perception of humans, but the way they viewed potential, creativity, and courage. Alara addressed the audience, her voice calm but powerful. Let this duel be a lesson. Strength and speed are important, but intelligence, creativity, and adaptability can surpass even the most formidable power. We have witnessed a human demonstrate these qualities today. Remember this. Alex floated beside her, smiling modestly. I hope this shows that humans are not weak. We may not always be the strongest, but we can face challenges with courage and ingenuity. From that day forward, the duel became a legend across Orion 9 and beyond. Species that had once dismissed humans began to reconsider. They realized that humans could survive, adapt, and thrive in situations that others deemed impossible. Alara invited Alex to participate in future training exercises with the Virin. Together, they shared techniques, strategies, and perspectives. Humans learned precision and skill, while Virin learned adaptability and creative thinking. The alliance brought mutual respect, understanding, and growth for both species. Alex's reputation soared. He was no longer just a pilot, he became a symbol of human ingenuity and courage. Young humans across the galaxy looked up to him, inspired by the demonstration that intelligence, strategy, and adaptability could triumph over raw strength. Alara, once the undefeated Virin champion, continued her training and competitions. But she never forgot the human who had challenged her and left her speechless. His creativity, courage, and calm intelligence had shown her something she had never expected, that humans were capable of achieving greatness beyond what appearances suggested. And so the duel that began as a simple challenge ended as a celebration of the human spirit. Strength alone did not win the day. Ingenuity, courage, and adaptability had triumphed. Across the galaxy, tales of the duel spread. Humans were no longer underestimated. The legend of HFY and his confrontation with the Virin champion became a story of inspiration, proving that even the seemingly weak could accomplish the extraordinary. Alara and Alex shook hands once more, their bond of respect solidified. The galaxy is full of surprises, Alara said, smiling. Alex nodded, and humans are ready for them. The arena lights dimmed, leaving the spectators in awe, inspired by a human who had shown that the impossible was possible, not through power alone, but through intelligence, creativity, and courage. And in that moment, Commander Alara Voss realized something important. Humanity's true strength was not in muscle or speed, but in their ability to think, adapt, and rise to any challenge. The duel had ended. The result left her, and the galaxy, speechless.